Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? My name is Ashley Bright, and this is the Impact Tribe Conversations. And today, I am so excited to have my friend Ryan, or as he's known as Mac McKeever, from Hemp Valley, Colorado. And you can see we're doubling up on the beautiful landscape imagery. I have the black and white version, and he has the amazing color version, which is current as of what, like 20 minutes ago, you were saying?
Yeah, 20 minutes ago. Thanks for Ashley. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. No problem. So for a little context, Ryan and I Mac and I chatted, I don't know, maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
I think so.
And I was just, blown away, not only by what you're doing just in kind of your field and your sort of life story, but then, just your attitude and your positive forward hashtag. Really resonated. And so I felt like you met all the criteria of being part of this conversation. So thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you so much. I literally feel honored. I feel like we're given a platform here with this journey that we're on. And for me, it all comes back to the why. And for us, that is CBD as medicine. Regardless of what's happening, whether, I'm on stage or in front of a camera or, on TV, the why of this whole thing was CBD as medicine, and it really is helping people. And so on one hand, I am super excited about where our TV show is going. It once was a documentary and now it's a TV show. And I was talking to our editing crew in LA just today, and they are just about done with our pilot, so we'll be pitching here in the next few weeks, and we'll find out soon where we will end up. But
I was sorry to interrupt you, but so you're jumping ahead only because I know what you do and I know the amazing things you're doing. But tell me just very briefly, like kind of what it is you're doing, and maybe how you got there. And then let's jump into kind of what's on your shirt and what you were just talking about, because I'd love to hear more.
Okay. Well, and then just to wrap that up, like on one hand, we are super excited about what we're doing, but on the other hand, there are farmers and producers out here of hemp, of specifically CBD hemp, that are struggling. And they are literally going to, lose their farms over the state of the industry because they can't hang on and weather the storm. So, it's a very celebratory moment for us, but it's very, kind of disheartening for those who think of CBD hemp as a lifestyle and, an actual income. So the whole story started October 1st of 2019. I had moved out to Colorado. Or do you want me to go before that? How far back do you want to go here?
Well, so I mean, again, I screwed up that intro a little bit because I gave a little context, but I didn't really set up the fact that Mac is kind of a pioneer in the I don't want to say burgeoning, but like the world of industrial hemp production, and has essentially followed this journey, come out west. And, and that is where he is right now, runs a farm. And the result of all this has led into what we were just talking about with regard to, this film he's been producing and the challenges you've been experiencing. And so, I mean, we can go back as far as you'd like.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting that where you are now and what you're doing now isn't that far from where you started as a kid to a certain extent, in terms of like, this is not your first time on the rodeo, as they say.
Yeah.
And so we can go back that far if you'd like.
Yeah. So just a real quick story about growing up on a dairy farm in Indiana. Thinking that I knew what I was doing growing up on a dairy farm. I was like, oh yeah, we had 2,000 cows, we had 2,000 acres. How hard could it be? Let's jump in the hemp world. So having that background allowed me to get over that initial fear of, okay, what am I doing? I've never grown hemp before. And it was nothing like being a dairy farmer in Indiana. So I really should have, been more cautious about what I was getting into. So, having grown up on a dairy farm, realizing that that was not really the life for me. I was always interested in stories and movies and that sort of thing. And so I viewed movies like Star Wars and Indiana Jones as kind of my escape from working on the farm. I mean, literally, I started working on the farm when I was in 3rd grade, before school and after school. And it was stressful. You know, it's a dairy farm. Our motto on the farm was, the cows don't take a vacation on us, so how can we take a vacation on them? And it's crazy. Like, that's the life of a dairy farmer. And, you know, being raised in that, like, you don't have a choice. That's all you know. So I literally didn't know any better and thought that Indiana Jones was like some guy somewhere else, you know, and like that was a real world somewhere. So the love of storytelling came from kind of my escape from farm life. And then going into TV through high school and then into college, that's really kind of where I decided that was going to be my career path. Just having a really great group of friends around me, great professor base at Ball State University, chirp, chirp.
Yeah.
So, we had a lot of resources and we were given a lot of freedom. And so Ball State is known for a news school, turning out people who are, you know, cameramen or women or anchors on the nightly news or Saturday morning news, that type of thing. So for us, my group of friends just happened to be coming in there at the right time all together. And our professors were reluctant at first, but we didn't really want to do that. You know, we wanted to make movies and tell stories and not report the news, you know? So, so we ended up creating a curriculum combined with the professors that combined the theater department of Ball State, the English department for the writers, and then our TCOM department for the production. And we made a whole series. By the time we were seniors, we had a whole semester of people that wanted to get into our program that we made with the professors. It was really cool.
Wow, that is that's awesome. So, you know, I was going to say a rule breaker or a new course charter, however you want to refer to it early on. You know, I had a similar experience in college where I went in to study advertising, and I think I was headed down the path that you did follow, because I wanted to do, you know, I wanted to shoot TV commercials and direct TV commercials and eventually go into film. Except this funny thing happened along the way, which was the internet. And I kind of went like, wow. And so at the time I was in school, this was sort of a burgeoning thing. And so maybe not to the same extent you did, but I kind of went and I approached the heads of the departments and I said, here's what I want to do. And they said, fine, create your own curriculum. I just had to take a couple core classes. And I went off and I did, like, you know, programming, and I did Flash, and I did interactive, and I did design, and all these things. And ultimately that was where I went. And so I think it's interesting that, you know, parallel tracks, but sort of charting our own course, if you will. So that's awesome. So that's what led you to where you are now in terms of film, because you've got a film business, right?
Yes. Well, it's video. I wish I was doing film, but you know, that's not what you learn these days. I mean, I was literally the last class to learn how to splice film before they went all digital at Ball State, which was, you know, kind of cool to learn that, but you know, not practical for today's world. So, so I got really fortunate with the group of people that I was surrounded around, you know, with in college, and ended up, you know, as a group, we won an Emmy Award doing directing a live TV show, which I think they're still in production now. So that was really, it was called Connections Live. So it basically is a regional show that just gives Ball State students an opportunity to kind of compete with the big boys, you know. So we were up against all the regional broadcast channels from Indianapolis during the regional Emmys, and ended up winning for, I think, best news story or whatever it was. But
nice.
So that kind of gives you a lot of confidence, you know, when you're graduating college. You're like, all right, wow, this is a great launching pad. So that led me into production. I got a really good job coming right out of college, and learned from probably the best guy in Indianapolis at that time. I lived in Indy for quite a while. So then I worked for him for a couple of years. 9/11 happened, and that changed everything. Changed everything in advertising.
Yep.
So basically, you go from this rocket ship ride where we're renting John Mellencamp's private jet to go do these huge corporate shoots across the country, to then 9/11 happening and all of the advertising world shutting down and recycling material from the past. So they were not producing anything new. It was all being recycled. Yeah. So that leaves small businesses, just like with what happened with COVID, out to dry. So that basically was the end of my career as far as with that guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, what better time to start a business than, at the bottom of the market? So that's what I did. I started my company right after 9/11 and had that in Indianapolis for 20 years, directing TV commercials and small corporate segments, small broadcast segments, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then that led us out here. Went through an unfortunate situation, had an accident when I was skiing on the backside of Vail in 2016 and fell off of a cliff and nearly had my left leg amputated. So that was a traumatic moment in my life. And the next 4 months that happened after that were equally traumatic. Just the destruction of communication in a marriage. And so ended up getting divorced and basically when I couldn't even walk. And then a few months later, going to my 20th reunion and meeting Jada, who a year later we were married. So we met back up at our 20th reunion and we're both going through divorces at the time. And so I moved out here and made the decision to split my time between Indiana and Colorado. This was 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason splitting my time is because I have 3 kids. And so I'm a very dedicated father. I go back and forth to Indiana every other weekend, at least until recently. Now I go back once a month for 10 days. But my kids are, a big part of my life. And I try and do as much as I can. I know that window is very short, raising children, and then they're gone. And so it's, even though it's exhausting, it's worth it. And they're worth it.
I can relate. My kids are getting to that age now where they don't need me as much. And I'm feeling I have the freedom, but I'm also like, oh, I missed that when they wanted to play Lego or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so now they're just wanting different things. So my sons are coming out here in 2 weeks to Colorado, and we're gonna climb to the top of that right there. That's Mount Garfield.
Wow. Nice.
And there's a flagpole on the top. And every time they come out, we do a timed climb of Mount Garfield. And my son he just keeps pushing me forward. I'm going to get injured one of these times. So, just to kind of catch up real quick, I move out here, right? 2017, splitting my time, moving out here, realizing that there is not the same opportunity in Grand Junction, Colorado, that there is in Indianapolis or Chicago or, any big city that's within 3 hours of Indianapolis, which afforded me a great career for 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I can always go to Denver, but, that's 4 hours away. That's mountain driving. That's weather. The variable is the weather constantly. I could go to Salt Lake City, but the projects are just not there for what I was used to. Mm-hmm. And so thinking outside the box, about 2014, I did a small project for Discovery Health featuring Charlotte's Web. Mm. And that was the first company to use CBD as a derivative for, in this case, as medicine for seizures. Mm-hmm. So the owners are related to or knew of this little girl named Charlotte, and she was having so many seizures a month that her quality of life was just so low that it was hard to see. So we did this project for them. And I was blown away that this plant medicine was able to reduce her number of seizures from, hundreds, like 100 or 200. It was incredible, down to like a handful,
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty interesting, to have your mind blown by a project. That doesn't happen very often. So
the seed was planted, no pun intended, for like something to come later.
Ago. Yeah. So 2014, and I lived in Indiana then, so I was like, oh well, that's never going to be in Indiana. It's like the most conservative state ever. Like, it's going to be last on the list for any sort of CBD or THC type of, legalization.
Which is so freaking crazy when you think about it, because this is not like people are like, yeah, let's party. It's like, no, this is helping people live their lives in a better, more fulfilled way and avoid the pain or the other ailments that are affecting them.
Yes. And so just a quick side story. We have so many testimonials that we've filmed over the past basically 2 years now of people, first of all, it doesn't cure anything. That's not a claim. No one's saying, oh, it's going to cure me of this and this and this. It just helps. It helps in ways that we can't define.
Mm-hmm.
If it helps someone feel better, that means it helps, right? If it helps someone stay off of pharmaceutical, it is still helping.
Yep.
We just can't define it yet. I mean, it's getting there through science, and pharmaceuticals are all over it right now. But up until this point, it's like, all right, what is it? It's like the Tom Brady, like he's got it. CBD has it,
Well, and so let's talk about that, because just to be clear, you're involved in the hemp industry, the CBD industry, as opposed to what we think of as sort of the THC based kind of cannabis products.
Yeah.
So maybe tell me a little bit more about that, just that distinction.
Yeah. So cannabis, people think of cannabis, they think of marijuana. Cannabis is marijuana and hemp, right? They are the same plant. Mm-hmm. So we are working specifically with CBD hemp, high yielding, high producing, high percentage CBD hemp. So think of that as more like a Christmas tree. It looks just like marijuana. It smells just like marijuana. The buds on the plants are giant colas that are beautiful and have just such a fragrance to them. But there's very little THC. There's less than 0.3% THC in there. Mm-hmm. Now their cousins, marijuana, has very little CBD in there. It looks the same as the CBD plant, but instead of 0.3% THC, it will have anywhere from 15 to 30% THC. Mm-hmm. And they look the same. So the average person really can't tell the difference. And just a real quick side story, that was one of the problems we had. We had, 8,000 plants growing out here. And so this group of people, part of the story is they would come in the middle of the night when we were ready to harvest and steal all the top colas off of our plants, mix them with marijuana, and then go down to Arizona and sell it for $2,000 to $3,000 a pound as if it was marijuana. So anyway, that's just...
Well, I remember, I think when we first chatted, I posted afterwards and I sort of commented that, like, not only are you like farming, tackling kind of the bureaucracy of all this, but occasionally, as you said, you've had to like literally patrol your fields because whether it's a drunken idiot or someone else, they're trying to like steal your stuff.
Yeah, we had multiple thieves, different groups of thieves, different areas of our field. That was part of what I would call the descent into madness aspect of my life last year. You think everything's going well, and then all of a sudden you come upon a place and there's 20 plants ripped out of the ground, and you found broken saws and empty beer cans, and you realize they were there for an hour or more, messing around in your field, stealing your plants that you've worked so hard for.
Yeah, frustrating.
Yeah, and at that point, so I had just fired my partners at that point, and we were in the middle of going through a mite infestation in our barn. So there was all these compounding factors, and that's not to mention we have 7 kids, and 4 of them live here, and 3 of them live in Indiana. So it's just this everything hitting at the same time, and then COVID happening. And
I think you need a few more things to just pile on there.
Yeah.
So maybe in that vein, so you've got all of this going on. You've got juggling 100 things, all of which are kind of this whole new industry. And then at the same time, you are, as you said, you ended up filming like 800 hours of your experience and those of others kind of in this new industry. And so tell me more about that, because that's really what we were talking about in the very beginning about you're potentially in a pilot, you're maybe going to be producing this thing. Yeah.
So that brings us to 2017, coming out here trying to reinvent myself and realizing I cannot make a living competing with college kids who were doing local commercials for $1,200. Like, not going to happen.
Yep.
You know? And so my wife, Jada, who is like the shining star of our TV show, she is so bright and bubbly, and we call her the hemp girl, and just, you know, this ball of cuteness and athletic physique, like awesome. And so I basically didn't have anything to do, and I was like her money collector. So I would go around and collect money from her rental properties and try and do things to help her save money. So I was, you know, replacing toilets and replacing garbage disposals. And then one day I came across this right here, this hemp farm.
This beautiful background here. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not a hemp farm at the time. It was literally just a pasture with 5 or 6 horses on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked Jada, I was like, hey, babe, like, what's up with the farm? You know, because we were just renting out the house at the time. And so she gave me the history of the farm, and I told her about CBD at the time. And we had talked briefly about, you know, CBD and the potential of growing hemp out here in Colorado and, you know, before. And so at this point, it was like, all right, well, we might have to do this out of desperation. You know, I don't have anything else going on, and I can't, you know, collecting your rent is not really helping us out as a family. So I was like, okay, let's look into CBD. So at the time we were looking into it, it was probably $40 a pound. And so that's for CBD, that's for biomass. And so let me just explain that real quick. So hemp comes in all sorts of different, you know, shapes and sizes. Biomass is the top of the plant. It's the buds. Biomass are the colas, the mm-hmm. end of the plants where all the bud is contained. That's where CBD is derived from. So when you harvest, you clip, you know, shuck the bottom of the plant off with a big lopper, throw mm-hmm. the thing in a big cart, go dry the plant, and then you shuck it in bucket, meaning you strip off the buds from the stems and stalks. And then you let all that dry, and that's considered biomass. So
it's very labor intensive, right?
Very labor intensive. When you break it down, the labor per plant is about, or per pound, is about $5 per pound of labor per plant.
Yep. Oh, okay, wow.
So let me restate that. So there's $5 a pound of labor per plant.
Okay.
That's right. So when you're selling for $40 a pound, that's great, right? You're making a ton of money. I mean, this field out here, right out my left shoulder, in 2017, we have 5 acres. I could have sold that biomass for $500,000 probably. And so that's kind of the data you're going off of. You know, it's like, okay, wow, even though it was $60 a pound the year before and $40 a pound this year, and then we get into it October 1st of 2019, it's about $20 a pound. I'm like, okay, even if it goes down to 10, you know, we're still going to make 100 grand, whatever, 200 grand, get our money back. And then the backup plan was, because I'm a filmmaker, we have all these cameras and all this equipment. It's, okay, let's film our journey and make a documentary about our success or about our failure. Mm-hmm. And so thinking about how to go about doing that, it's like, all right, what do I have? What resources do I have available, and how can I ensure our success? So I used my camera, which is, you know, a really nice broadcast camera. I used my camera and reached out to different hemp farmers in the county and said, hey, we're making a documentary about CBD hemp. Would you be interested in sharing your story? And that really opened the door for everything that we are doing now. Mm-hmm. I had no idea where this would take us. No idea. I thought originally it was just going to be some farmers planting seeds in the ground and watching those seeds grow and harvesting, and that's the story. Let's see what that's like from that perspective. Because there's 1,000 documentaries about CBD, right? Mm-hmm. About it's good for this and it's good for that and help me with this and help me with that. But are you really seeing the characters who are doing it?
Yeah.
You don't really see that too often. And you don't see it from a perspective of like a documentary that's immersive, where people are, you know, the hemp farmer is also the camera guy. You know,
yeah, it's the camera guy. Usually someone coming from outside
Yeah.
you know, to like, oh, the world is curious about this hemp thing, or that, you know, let's learn
Right.
about it. But you're right in the thick of it, literally.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like we had a unique perspective doing that. And then the camera opened up the doors with all these other people who became really good friends of ours. You know, this is all out of sincerity. It's not like we're tricking anybody. I mean, here's what it is. I'm trying to learn, love to involve you in our story. I've got a hemp farm. I don't want to fail. Help me.
And this is all in like the last, what, 24 months, basically?
17 months, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And by no means am I doing this alone. We have had a great team behind us. We've had amazing interns who literally, like, if it wasn't for a couple of these interns, this project would not happen. Like, you know, they are an integral part. Everyone has played an integral part of what we're doing. So, you know, it's by no means just me. I might be the face of it, but, you know, it helps out to know that, you know, there's a lot of people behind me doing this. So,
and what did you, I was going to say, like, along this journey, like what, so obviously, like, you had a very particular experience that led you here, and now you're in the thick of it. And, you know, like, what were you learning then about, you know, as you were going through this process, about the other people that have, you know, they're stepping into this industry, or maybe they've been in it for a while, and the challenges or the wins they're having?
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, the story is like, in the beginning, all these people were excited and happy, and, you know, everything is all smiles and cheers, and the future is bright. And last year I got $500,000 for a truckload of hemp, and, you know, the guy gave me cash in a suitcase. You know, everyone was still happy when we first started, right? So all these people, just all they know is success, because the people that we were filming are from the beginning of the industry. They're the pioneers. They are the ones that are writing the playbook on CBD as hemp, you know, CBD hemp farming. And so it was really exciting to be around that. And then as I started expanding the story, we started involving extractors from the Front Range. The Front Range, for those of you that don't know, the Front Range of Colorado is considered the Denver side of the mountains. So it would be Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Castle Rock, Denver, Boulder, Longmont, Fort Collins, you know, all those that run along that front range. So we involved a couple storylines from the Front Range, just awesome people. I mean, we love these guys, and they are the top of the game as far as extraction companies go, just producing like the highest quality oils and distillates, isolates, anything you can think of, they can science it out. It's kind of like Matt Damon from, you know, that movie, The Martian or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll science the shit out of it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He grows a greenhouse with his own poop or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. Like, these guys can do that, you know, and just awesome people. So involving all these other storylines, I start reaching out, like my tentacles go out from just western side of Colorado to, okay, extractors and product manufacturers and legislators and people who are on the front lines of, you know, what does the future look like with hemp? What does the future look like with CBD hemp and industrial hemp? And so just kind of knocking on those doors and peeking into those different worlds, because make no mistake, the CBD hemp world is completely different than the industrial hemp world. Like, the industrial hemp world, meaning fibers and textiles and grains and feed, that is a different ballgame. That is a totally different plant. CBD hemp plants look more like a Christmas tree, giant. They can be, you know, 8 feet tall, 25 pounds.
Oh, wow.
When you're talking about industrial hemp that has that center column, that center stalk that's super thick, and you can make all the fiber out of it. You know, those guys are 12 feet tall or more, but the only part of that has the buds on it is the very top 3 feet.
Yeah.
And so that's a completely different type of farming. You have to equate the CBD hemp farming with like vineyard style farming, or like tomatoes, or, you know, a winery, something like that.
Yeah.
And so you're asking about the future, and, you know, there's so much that happens in between, like that setup of like, we're following all these farmers and all this stuff, to where we are now. There is so much that happens in between there, and that could be a whole nother hour show if you want it to be. But, you know, the future, to answer your question, like, all these people, it comes down to this. If they don't have big money behind them, or if they don't have an already established brand, or if they are not connected to a celebrity, they are not going to be around. It just comes down to that. And that's for CBD hemp. CBD hemp farmers. They have got to have some sort of outlet where they have a product that's tied to their farm. They have to have that full vertical integration. So they have to be the farmer, and then somehow get it extracted into oil, and then they have to have their own brand. Because being just a hemp farmer is not going to cut it.
Well, it's fascinating when we first talked, just the idea that in many regards, you are beholden just to the same thing that was true of any kind of people that were dependent on the land and the weather, like hundreds of years ago. You know, you could have a great crop, a crappy crop, great weather, you know, you're sort of, that's one issue just to deal with. And then on top of that, now you've got the price within the industry, you've got competition, and then I know you've also got then regulatory challenges and, you know, what's the future? And now on top of that, assuming you get all those things right, to your point, it's like now you need to be tied into like a great brand, a great sort of recognizable front person, if you will, that's going to be that leader, you know, so that you can stand out from the rest. So, and I mean, anybody that thinks, I'm sure that they're going into an industry that is like, I'm just going to be raking in the cash. It's like, no.
People still think that though. That's the thing. And that's why I feel like, you know, I've been given this platform for a reason. It's not only to educate people, but to make them aware. Like, if you think you're going to get into CBD hemp farming and make $1 million, you are kidding yourself. Like, it is not going to happen.
Well, and you, I think it was in the trailer I watched, you said something effective. This is not about making money. This is a labor of love. You know, this is truly. And so tell me a little more about that, you know, in terms of where your heart's at with this.
Yeah. So that's why I have had to go back to that why all the time. Because there's so many moments where you just want to quit. You get into this, and, you know, and I speak of this as two different things. You know, on one hand, it's as a farmer, right? The other hand, it's a documentary filmmaker. And so it was quite the mental challenge to like go through some of the downward spirals that I ended up going through, and then have to film it and be conscious of having to film it and direct a crew to film me going through these emotions. Like, it was nuts, and it was hard on the mind for sure. But, you know, the one thing that it comes back to is, you know, the why of this is all about the medicine. And so whether it's going through a barn that's infested with mites, and you literally just want to throw a match in the corner and just walk away from it, to watching the price go from $40 a pound 1 year to $20 a pound in 2019 to then 85 cents a pound in 2020. I mean, how does it go from $20 a pound to 85 cents a pound? We have $5 a pound in costs. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so the only guys that are going to benefit out of this are the big time grain farmers out of Montana and Kansas that are going to switch over, you know, or Oklahoma or wherever, you know, the big grain states. They're going to switch over from corn and wheat and soybeans to industrial hemp, because it's what's called a multi-crop. So whereas we are watching the beginning, the rise and the fall of the CBD, the boutique CBD hemp farmer, we are watching the rise at the same time the CBD market is falling for producers. We are watching the rise in the multi-crop farmers, such as the guys out of Kansas. So even though the top of those industrial plants only have like 3 feet of cola, and there might only be 2 to 3% CBD, they have 10,000 acres of it. You know, whereas, you know, we've got 5 acres.
They got volume, so
they have volume, and also they can extract the seeds from those buds and sell the seeds for hemp hearts or animal feed, and then they sell the stalk for fiber. So it's a multi-crop. They have a 3-crop in one, and so who wouldn't want to do that, you know? And so that's where it's going. And we've been fortunate to film what we have been. I mean, we've been in the right place at the right time. It's kind of like that documentary Icarus. I don't know if you saw that on Netflix, with the guy who just happens to be trying to dope so he can prove that he could be a champion on steroids, and it was around the Lance Armstrong time, and falling into the whole Russian doping scandal, just unwilling, unknowingly.
I mean, and you know, I'm sure at some point you look back on this. I don't know if it's happening now because you're in the thick of it, but like, you know, they say everything happens for a reason. You're in the right place, the right time, the right people. And so where are you at now with it? I know you've got a ton of footage, and you've obviously got a trailer put together, and kind of where are things at with that? What's going on?
So
if you can share, I don't want you to reveal any secrets.
There are so many things that just are mind-blowing about this whole situation, but we are in the process of finalizing our pilot right now for season 1. We have 10 episodes that are being cut at the same time that we are editing the pilot. So we're hoping to be, we're hoping to know where this thing is going to land within the next month or so. And then that means we don't have to focus on the pilot anymore. We can hire 3 more editors and get these 10 episodes done pretty quickly, because the show isn't stopping. We're in a really unique position because the industry is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. And one of the things that's coming to light now is, kind of the end of where we are in season 1 is basically prices have dropped from $20 a pound to 85 cents a pound. There is no future in CBD hemp farming. And so what does that mean? So that means that I realize that I also have a unique ability to talk to people and open doors. And I'm not, I encourage that. I like meeting people and like talking to people and helping people. And so I was like, you know what, if I can open doors to make this documentary, I bet I can open doors and help these guys and sell all this product that's just sitting here, because there's huge storylines that we haven't talked about. Like there was a ton of biomass that was left over in our county. And so, when you're a hemp farmer, you know how to grow hemp. You don't know how to sell it.
Yep.
It's not corn and soybeans. You can't take it down to the local co-op. There is no such thing. And so these guys are good old boys. They're corn and soybean farmers that just started growing hemp.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and help these people out. Even though it's going to be at a loss, I'm going to try and sell their products so that way they don't lose everything. And so that's what I started doing. I went from a hemp farmer to a hemp broker and started selling all this product: isolate, distillate, biomass, Delta 8, all of it, like just selling everything all over the place and just trying to help these people out. So that opened up the nation to us. And that's where we're at currently. Is we are 17 days into filming season 2. We're now bridging the gap between CBD and THC, because throughout our research, throughout our 17 months of filming, we've talked to a number of experts, a number of lab people, a number of veterinarians and medical professionals that all agree. CBD and THC are meant to work together. Now, that doesn't mean you're supposed to get high all the time. It just means that CBD and THC are supposed to work together to achieve the most medicinal value. Now, whatever those doses are, I don't know. Everybody's different. There's a lot of variables there, how big you are, how small you are, your fat content, like how fast you metabolize things. You know?
Well, it's fascinating. I had a client a number of years ago I worked with, and he was working on some proprietary technology with a university here in Arizona. And he was pointing out to me, and I didn't realize this, he said that, most of what's on the packaging when you buy it in, whether it's medicinal or recreational, that isn't actually that accurate. They're kind of making a lot of assumptions. A lot of them don't have the time or the facilities to be able to actually test what the quality is, what the ingredients are, the potency, all those things. And, and that, and just a lot of what I've read, it's like, to what you're saying, there is an untapped benefit, like an incredible potential here that we just don't know about because there's not enough research. There hasn't been enough studies. There hasn't been, I mean, I think some places in the world are more progressive and they have, but we're just like scratching at the surface here in terms of what this thing could do. And we need to kind of shed that whole history of what it's been about and the legality and like, okay, this is something that nature gave us.
Yeah.
How do we use this thing? Right.
Well, it's coming. It is coming. There have been, and by no means am I a stoner running around wanting to get high all day. Like I am a business person. I am a storyteller. This is a passion for me. And
and the fact that you even need to sort of utter that, because that's unfortunately where we are in terms of I think it's changing. It's, I read a lot of, established publications that are talking about it in a very different way from the business perspective, from the medical perspective, from the opportunity. But still we need, you need to say like, I am not a stoner. I'm in this for other reasons, Yeah.
And there are hangovers. There are people that are hanging over, that are crossing over from the marijuana industry, the black market industry. And so, as the business settles, as the industry starts to kind of form and regulation starts to really hopefully start to make sense, the people that are going to be left are not going to be the stoners. They're going to be the business people who know how to, do marketing and business and not run around and, like hippies.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's as you've sort of alluded to, I mean, this is, there's so much opportunities here. There's so much potential, whether you're talking about the industrial component of it, the CBD, the THC, the combination of them, and as I mean, hemp, for example, hemp has been used for hundreds of years in all sorts of other things. It's just kind of like everyone's sort of forgotten about that.
Yeah, exactly. And, like turned it off. Yeah, well, that's an interesting story too. I mean, that's that goes back to, 1937? Is that when it was made illegal? And so speaking of history, we are right now. We are in a position, and I'm specifically talking about marijuana, but we are in a position right now where our country is in unprecedented debt. I mean, we've just shelled out like $4 trillion, $6 trillion, whatever it is. I mean, it's a lot. It's a low number with a trillion at the end, but we've got to pay for that somehow. And so the last time our country was in this situation was the end of the Great Depression. And so what did we do at the end of the Great Depression? We removed prohibition of alcohol. So, we're going to do the same thing, whether it's public yet or not. And we're hoping that it's going to be within 2 years that on the federal level, that marijuana is legal. 70% of the United States thinks it should be legal. I mean, that is the voice of the people. So there is no reason why it shouldn't be. And I'll tell you what, and this is kind of the sad state of affairs in some regard, but, in the political world, like if it doesn't become legal within 2 years, it will certainly become legal before the next election. Like they will use this as a tool for sure. So,
I mean, it's like so many things, whether you're talking about kind of like the environment and sustainability and clean energy and, things like that, where there is a buck to be made, people will figure out a way to do that. And I'm all for that because, this is a capitalist world we're living in. And if that is how we need to move it forward, that is what gives me hope in so many ways, because despite the challenges and all the industries and everything we're seeing right now, there's money to be made, and that will drive competition, that will drive regulation, that'll drive a lot of things. And, I find this fascinating that, on one hand, you are a pioneer, but you are a pioneer in a space that you're growing stuff. Like this is, it's as old as human beings. And I just, one of the things that I immediately that resonated with me from meeting you was, and I think it's evident if you look at kind of the storyline here, is that, you stumbled into a couple situations that sort of forced your hand. But once you made a decision, it was driven by a need to help people and a need to sort of provide value. I think both, getting the CBD space because of that documentary that you shot, and learning about the potential of this, and then getting into filming and meeting the people that are struggling, that are in this space, and how can you give them a voice. And then to your most recent, about, I'm helping them broker and sell their product so that they don't go out of business, they don't go bankrupt. And I think that speaks so much to the person that you are, and why you're doing what you're doing. And so that is just, for me, that's the reason I wanted to have you be a part of this, because it's this kind of, I don't want to say selfless, you're in it for, you have reasons, but there is a root of it, which is like really helping people and providing value and collaboration and sharing their story. I think that's, you and I sort of, that resonates, because I'm fascinated by people's stories, the journeys they're on, and the challenges, the wins, the highs, the lows. And right now, as you've said in your industry, but I think collectively in the world, we are at this unprecedented kind of moment where everything is up for grabs. And, when that happens, there's also that turmoil. But I'm a firm believer in kind of the human spirit and the better side of us. And I think that it's going to bring about tremendous opportunity, tremendous change, tremendous sort of reinvention of what it means to be a steward of this world that we share.
Definitely. And we're excited to bring that in. In season 2 is when we bring in that industrial hemp side of things. And if I could just real quick.
Please.
You were talking about the medicinal value and how, we're trying to catch up with science. So if you take just 2 years ago as an example, and this is on the CBD side of things, there was one clinical trial being done 2 years ago on CBD or a derivative of CBD. Last year, there were 31 clinical trials being done, or more. So we're going from barely scratching the surface to pharmaceutical companies are just jumping all over this to try and figure out a way that they can capitalize on it, which we both agree is a good thing. It can be a good thing. We need regulation. There is no mistaking, as much as people don't want government involvement, we need regulation. Dosing is a big deal.
Quality control and what ingredients,
that is a very big deal. There is, for the first few years of the hemp industry, there was this big thing going around that we as a country, were selling our CBD overseas and then buying it back, but different companies would buy it back from a wholesaler overseas. It was our CBD, and then it was mixed with grapeseed oil. So to increase the volume, they add the filler to it. And so that, we need regulation. We need people to be able to be confidently say, I know what I am putting in my body. It's different when you're putting it on your skin or whatever, but when you are putting it inside your body, you need to know what's going in there, And so where this is going is the industrial side of things. We have so much to talk about there. We need to do another episode on fiber. With the price of wood going up 300+%, things are coming into play that might be viable for the near future. You probably would be interested in talking with some of those boys who are involved in like the hemp fiber particle boards or the hemp blocks that they're making right now. It could be a viable option with the price of wood as it is right now. So
so Mac, I want to thank you. As I was expecting, we blew past our half hour, but that's
I thought we were just getting started.
No problem. We are just getting started. But I wanted to real quick, if people want to learn more about kind of you and your business or the documentary, how can people find you and learn more about that?
I appreciate that. We are on Instagram or Facebook, Hemp Valley, Colorado. Sometimes I get my farm and the documentary mixed up. So the farm is Colorado Valley Hemp, and the documentary is Hemp Valley, Colorado. But if it's okay, I would love to drop some names of some of the company or some of the farms that we have been working with. I know there's going to be an audience seeing this, and again, trying to help these people out. They are surviving on their product sales right now, so we love the people at Colorado Hemp Solutions. They actually are the ones farming our ground this year. Wasey Clark and his wife, Alex, are amazing people. They saved our butts many times last year with their generosity and their help, just trying to show us that we could do it. And we really appreciate that. So Colorado Hemp Solutions, their #1 product, I think they won some award for, they have a pet product that is awesome. We give it to our dog, especially when we travel, and it just really calms him down. We don't have any issues. He doesn't have diarrhea wherever we get, after the travel. It's called Moose's Magic. So anyway, check that out. We have a lot of a lot of friends that have also really helped us out. Blue Forest Farms, another great company on the Front Range. Ecclesias Extracts. Those are the lab guys that I was talking about that just science everything out. Just so cool. I mean, so passionate about what they do. And, we hope to bring that passion to the forefront. And then I would be remiss not to mention the folks at Hogback Farms. They have a very unique story. He was a big shot in the oil industry. His daughter was born with a collapsed trachea and umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. She could barely breathe. And so she could, she was a delayed development and had a lot of challenges. And so as she became, able to get to the age of talking and communicating, she couldn't speak. She would have to sign everything. And they gave her CBD, and instead of signing, she started speaking.
Wow. And
so he quit his job as a oil worker, bought a hemp farm, and now they're hemp farmers. It took to provide medicine for his daughter to save her life and provide a quality of life that she would otherwise not get. So just some great folks that we're involved with, and that we really are good friends with at this point. Just love to death. So, and that's just the Colorado side of things. I could talk another 10 minutes. But I think we need to have part 2.
I think we will have to have a part 2, and we'll go on the other side of once you get that first season out, and the second season's kind of in the can, as they say, and you're starting to kind of, I think that would be great. So I want to thank you for spending the time and for sharing. I really appreciate it, and I just love that there are people like yourself out there in whatever industry and whatever field and community that they are serving, that are giving of themselves and trying to help people out and make the world a better place. So thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. It's great to get to know you even better, and just like I've been saying the whole time, positive forward. Just got to keep pushing.
Positive forward. I love that. For anyone out there, positive forward #. You can apply it to any industry and any person, because we're just moving it forward. So awesome, my friend. Well, thank you so much. And,
thank you.
And we'll be back for a part 2, I think.
Sounds good. Have a great night. Thanks.